This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to Spotcast, Season 6, Episode 18. My name is Tim Mitra. I am in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined once again by Jonathan Kuline in Mississauga, Ontario.
Hello there, kids.
And over on the left channel, we have Jaime Lopez Jr. in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
I assume you're on the left channel. I don't know. I'm usually on the right channel. You're on the left channel, and Jonathan's right down the middle. But I don't know if people even notice that this show is in stereo. Glorious stereo. We've always recorded in stereo, folks. Well, not always, but I guess, this show we have, definitely. So if you're not enjoying us in stereo with your headphones on, what are you doing?
You're doing it wrong. You're doing our podcast wrong.
You're listening wrong. So please listen correctly. Alrighty, speaking of listening correctly, let's do some fact check. So last week I was talking about the Tom Baker Doctor Who. The Genesis of the Dalek was the episode I was speaking about. It's actually season 12, episode 11. So they don't do like one storyline per season. They do stories in 3 or 4 episodes. And they are, in fact, 24 minutes long because they would have been 30 minutes with commercials. And I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if it's still like that. Maybe some of our UK friends can let us know. But they used to show a TV show, and then they would show the commercials at the end, as opposed to what we do in North America, which is like throw them in the middle of a plot line, The Muppet guy I referred to, of course, is Davros, which, people who are, had to go and buy new phones because they threw them out the window. He is the creator of the Dalek. And I think he's in, I can't remember if we saw him in the battles with Jodie Whittaker. Do you recall seeing a dude named Davros, Jaime? Like a sort of half Dalek, half, it's kind of like Christopher Pike with the little wheelchair thing.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom half of him is a Dalek. Doesn't ring a bell?
No, it's not ringing a bell, but it's not to say it didn't happen.
Okay. Well, anyway, to wrap that up, the Genesis of the Dalek was actually told in 6 parts. So that would have been the equivalent of 2 hours long, I guess, right? Alrighty. Speaking of the strike, I know we were just talking about that in the headlines, right? We have our friend Michelle Hurd. I saw a couple of tweets by Michelle Hurd last week talking about the strike and talking about residual checks, and really interesting little clip here of her speaking about the importance of the strike for actors such as herself. And I think Jonathan and I were talking about it on the weekend. I think she was probably in like 3 episodes this last season of Picard. Even though she's been in this show for all 3 seasons. The way it works is, for actors like her, they get called in. They have to sort of make themselves available for 6 months, for reshoots. They may get put onto a show, and they may have to wait like 6 months or a year or 2 before the show that they recorded actually airs, at which point they'll get their residual checks. I don't know if you saw some of the other debate about residual checks this week. Even Denise Crosby posted one. I forget, she was in a show last year, Black something. Anyway, she was showing that she got 4 checks, 4 residuals for an episode she did last year. She ended up getting $21, right? And I think that one of the ladies that was a voice on, she was in Orange is the New Black, and she was talking about how she's actually one of the voice actors in one of the shows we watched, and of course I'm drawing a blank on it. But she was saying that you might get like $900 a day to be in these shows, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you take the government taxes you as if that's your regular 26 weeks a year check. So they tax you at a high rate, so you might pay 55% tax, so at which point it comes down to like $450, and then you have to pay your lawyer and your publicist and your agent, and by the time all's said and done, that's how you end up with a fat $21, $22 kind of check kind of thing. So you're not supporting the strike. This is what they're all complaining about, is not only is it hard with, I think the challenge is with streaming, is that the contract the actors are working under was written in the 60s. There was no such thing as streaming. There's been no updates to the contract, and when they get put into these shows, the Netflixes and the Amazons or whatever, like the recording industry is suffering through, with Spotify and things like that. The percentages these guys make is just not enough to live on, so next time your cab driver is Nathan Fillion, or maybe not him, but Michelle Hurd, is your Uber driver, that may be why, right?
Yeah, it really speaks to the idea that maybe it shouldn't be about, and I'm not an actor, so I don't know the right thing here, but if they went from 9 months of work and now they have a lot fewer months of work, it sounds like, well, really what they should be paid for is the value and not the time, right? Because the time has dramatically shifted for things that are completely outside of their control.
Yeah, there's a pretty big difference nowadays that they're doing these 4 episode, 6 episode, 8 episode seasons as opposed to the 22, 24, 26 episode seasons that we used to get in the past. It's certainly one thing on the job security front, but they won't even do revenue sharing based on performance. That's one of the grievances that the actors and the writers have, is that if a show performs really well, they deserve to be compensated more, and they're like, no, you should be compensated based on the work you did, and that's it. And so it can be really tricky to figure out like what's the best way to compensate people in this day and age. As you say, is it's do you get paid for the hours that you do it? Do you get power? It's not exactly the old world, and I don't know what the long-term vision of this is. If they're going to basically drive, some people to barely be able to scrape out a living doing this, it's going to discourage a lot of people from wanting to do this, and then the quality of the product suffers. So I'm not sure what the long game is here. Maybe it's drive them all out of the business and just, animate them. I don't know.
Yeah. No, the other thing too that Michelle Hurd, and this is one thing that we don't realize as consumers of this content, is that, like an actor's life is, auditioning for this and auditioning for that, and they work for a bit and then they're looking for work. And as she puts it in one of the tweets I saw last week, an actor's job is looking for work. That's what they primarily are doing, right? In fact, you remember Ilsa, our good friend Ilsa from back in the day. She went to Hollywood after university and thought she would give it a go, and it was the worst experience of her life, and that's why she came back, and she just stopped acting. Like, she just got right out of the whole business. She's been in a few movies and she was in a few plays and stuff like that, but she just gave up on it. Like, it was too heart-wrenching for her.
Yeah,
so, a shame.
It does take a very thick skin, I think, to be able to do that, and also just to be constantly rejected like that's got to do something to your self-esteem, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, even I was listening to some interviews by Jennifer Lawrence. Apparently, she would go up against, not up against, but she would be in the same auditions with Emma Stone and other girls like her, like who have the same look, and they all kind of knew each other from, like you see on sometimes you see it on TV shows where you walk into a room and it's like everybody looks the same, right, kind of thing. But that's just the nature of the work, and it's not until you are lucky enough to get to the point where you become a Jennifer Lawrence or you become an Emma Stone and that's like a very rare percentage of actors who do that, right? And so following up on last week, I was talking about, it had just happened before we started recording that the actors joined the writer's strike, SAG-AFTRA, right? Christopher and the cast of Oppenheimer walked out of the UK opening because the call to join the strike had come at the time that they were in the UK. And on that same note, Christopher Nolan has commented that he's not going to be working on any new development in support of the strike. Like, in that, he's not. He's a writer too, right? Like he and his brother write all of his movies, right? But he's not going to be entertaining any prospects or asks anybody asking him to work on new stuff until this is resolved. So it's good to see him supporting that.
Also, he needs a break because he just made like this massive movie that's about to come out next week.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's a 600-pound movie. It's really, it's 11 miles of film. It must be hard to carry that around to all these premieres.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Jonathan, you're up next with another story about the strike.
Yeah,
sort of.
I think this is obviously going to be a big part of the world that we are associated with by this podcast, in that, yeah, it's an unavoidable. When you have no writers and you have no actors, you have no productions, and so therefore a lot of things are going to get delayed. However, there's a story from IO9 that a number of productions that are based internationally are actually going to still be able to continue, given that they are not part of the same unions, and so therefore they can continue. So there's a spin-off series related to Dune that is going to be airing theoretically down the road on Max, called Dune: The Sisterhood, and apparently that has just been able to continue because it's filming overseas. It's filming over in Budapest, and it is apparently not going to be inhibited by any of this stuff. And, the other thing they have going for them is that, yes, there are sort of, well-known actors who are American and from other countries in these productions. They may want to do a sympathy, I don't want to work while my colleagues and friends are picketing. They don't have a choice. If they have a contract, if they don't go, they could be sued for breach of contract. So interesting sort of side note that, we do have a lot of doom and gloom. There is a lot of, a lot of the things that we love have been, pushed to the side. We got news that we talked all about Deadpool 3 last week. Deadpool 3 has been put on the hiatus because no actors, no filming. But there are some things out there that are still happening. So it's not going to be a complete absence of content, but I think it's going to go from what's been pretty much a fire hose the last couple of years between all the streaming services to maybe more of a slow faucet.
Yeah, and Carol mentioned the other day that she was reading that some Canadian productions are still going because, again, different unions and stuff like that. But I also heard TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, which comes up in September, the tickets go on sale pretty soon. And of course, during the strike, which sounds like it's going to go till October, I think you were saying.
I mean, that's the speculation. A lot of different places are saying that it's unrealistic to expect it to come back before the fall. So,
right. Yeah, so that said, for Toronto International Film Festival, one of the big draws of that is the American stars coming up and walking the red carpet. So that they're obviously not going to be coming for that, and that's going to change the tone of the film festival as well.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. I had that in my sneak preview for the watch list, but there's San Diego Comic-Con this weekend, and that has been pretty dramatically impacted by the absence of celebrities, because no celebrities, no panels, no movies. A lot of the studios pulled out. So yeah, so we'll stay tuned, kids. We'll get around to that in a few minutes. In the meantime, let's jump over to some better news for comic and TV fans. So I mentioned, I think a few episodes back, there was a bit of a kerfuffle in the last couple of months as Marvel Comics killed off, spoilers, killed off Ms. Marvel.
Should they pause now? Should they pause? Okay, sorry.
They killed off Ms. Marvel, the same character, Kamala Khan, that is popular in the TV show. She was killed off in Amazing Spider-Man number 26 recently. That was I think a month and a half ago. And there's a special issue coming out. Oh, you mean
a comic book I don't read? She was killed off.
She was. Although again, Amazing Spider-Man, one of the number one selling comics in the world, so it's there.
Shame on me. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
They killed off this character. The joke in comic books is no comic book death is ever permanent, with the exception of Uncle Ben. That's pretty much the only one that's stood the test of time. And, even then they've brought back, every character you can think of. So it was a bit of a surprise that they have announced a new Ms. Marvel comic book this week, given that she's dead, but she'll be back, and apparently back very soon. And the biggest surprise is who's going to be writing that book. It's actually going to be written by Iman Vellani, who played Kamala Khan in the Ms. Marvel series on Disney+, who is also from here in the GTA. So yeah, so this is it's weird, you know. Again, I've certainly dealt with this as a comic fan for most of my life. Kill character's gone away for a while, eventually character comes back, you know. Superman, Captain America, you know, name the character, they've all lived and died, and that's part of the deal. Usually you get a little bit of time where you absence makes the heart grow fonder, and then they bring the character back, but apparently this book is coming out in the very near future. It's coming out this year. The book is what are they calling it? It's called Ms. Marvel, but it's Ms. Marvel colon The New Mutant, and apparently she's going to be affiliated with the X-Men.
Oh, cool. So I have a really important question though. Has Captain Canuck ever been killed off?
Ooh, that's a good one. I must admit, as much as I have respect for Richard Comley and Captain Canuck, I do not keep up with it, so I could not say. They did kill the leader of Alpha Flight, the Canadian superhero team in Marvel Comics, was a character named the Guardian, and the Guardian has been killed multiple times and brought back to life multiple times. So.
Okay. Does he stand on guard for thee? Is that what he does?
That's what he does. As a matter of fact, yes, he does.
All right. Speaking of messes.
Speaking of messes. So, good story that came out this week from The Hollywood Reporter about the Aquaman sequel. The fact that, we knew that this was going to be an interesting one, given that it has the ignominious distinction of being the last of the current DCEU movies, sort of pre-Superman Legacy reboot, James Gunn, the whole 9 yards that we've been talking about. They are doing this huge reboot of the DC universe, and in this case, how do you land that plane? And it sounds like it's been a real challenge. So this piece goes into great detail, talks about all the challenges and just, the circumstances changing. Apparently, they have been just trying to pound this movie into shape so that it makes sense for an ending point and also whatever comes next. Apparently, they've now done 3 rounds of reshoots, all directed by James Wan, the director who's, again, Fast and Furious and very well-respected director. It's as the story points out here, this is an almost unprecedented number even for a movie of this scale to do 3 sets of reshoots. And apparently, amidst these reshoots, they've gone through a whole bunch of script changes, trying to figure out how to fit these different things in. They were gonna do a version with Ben Affleck as Batman, and then they did a version with Michael Keaton as Batman, and so because now they're coming out of the repercussions of what happened in the Flash movie, and so it's a good piece. I highly recommend it. We'll have it in our show notes. You can give it a look. It's actually quite a decent length story that really kind of gets into the meat of it. But safe to say, it sounds like this movie is gonna be a bit of a work in progress for the short term. We'll see how it lands in the end. But apparently Blue Beetle got 2 additional days of reshoots, and they've had 3 rounds of them. So just to give it a little perspective on what they're trying to do here, it sounds like, I don't know. I mean, I thought the first Aquaman was fine. It was entertaining. I like Jason Momoa. I think he's very charming. But this sounds like, This sounds like the exact reason why I stayed away from DC movies the last couple of years, which is to say, I don't want to get involved in something this complicated.
Yeah, well, I think the Big Bang Theory had it right. Nobody wants to be Aquaman, right? It's so. You guys haven't seen Shazam: Fists of Fury yet, have you?
Fury of the Gods. No.
Yeah, she just did that one. Yeah,
I've not. It's on Max, but I've not gotten around to that.
List. It's on Crave. Same thing.
Yeah. So I guess the question. So is that incarnation of Shazam going away with all this stuff too?
They have not explicitly said. I think the expectation is as they are rewriting and getting rid of sort of all the previous actors that will probably also go.
Okay, I don't want to spoil it for you because it's just such a fine movie. Actually, I did enjoy it. I shouldn't say. There is a tie-in, which is why I was curious, like how they're going to resolve that. That's a pretty funny tie-in too.
Yeah, I know there's been cameos towards the ends of some of these movies that are sort of foreshadowing things that I don't know how that's going to all end. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
True. Cool. All right.
And the last thing I've got here is story that came out of rollingstone.com this week that I wanted to raise. It does tie into our world because this person is a composer of a lot of film scores that we have enjoyed over the years. So Danny Elfman, the composer, it was revealed this week by Rolling Stone that he apparently settled out of court a large-scale sexual harassment allegation made by a fellow composer, female composer, that she claimed that he was pleasuring himself in her presence on multiple occasions, and he did not want this to come out, so he settled for $830,000 settlement to keep this off the books. Apparently this has now come to light, so he's issued a statement saying, I didn't want my career being besmirched, so I thought it would be easier just to pay the money and make this go away, but I didn't actually do anything wrong, and now that this has all come out, I intend to fight it vigorously. Of course, Elfman, we know him from composing so many things, especially things related to working with things like Batman, things like Edward Scissorhands, so many of these classic films from the 90s and 2000s. Obviously you hate to hear about these kinds of things, but it's a very, very murky thing. It just came out in the last couple of days, so obviously it'll have a bit of legs over the next little while. But yeah, it's good piece from Rolling Stone getting into all the details if you're so inclined to go there. It's a he said, she said, but something tells me if you're going to pay to make something go away that you're on the back foot. So this is not looking good for somebody whose work we've really enjoyed, and obviously very disappointed to hear about these allegations.
Yes, I'm looking at the list of movies. It's like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Nightmare Before Christmas, Men in Black, lots of Simpsons.
Yep.
Well, I guess he's been reused in the Simpsons, I guess, right?
Yep.
What else stands out? There's a few that were here. I mean, it goes all the way back, like it goes quite a ways back too, even before that.
Yeah, I mean, Danny Elfman's 70, and he's been composing for years, and he was in a rock band before that, and so, yeah, I mean, this is a prominent musician, musical creator, and it's pretty messed up. Again, we always talk about the struggle, right? How do we separate the art from the artist? It's not good. It's really not good.
All right. What do you got for us, Jaime? Some cheery news for us, Jaime?
Yeah, we bookended these quite well here. So on a more positive note, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will appear on Disney Plus August 2nd. So a couple weeks from now.
I got a bunch of stories here that I've been collecting over the week, and I ended up just putting them all together into one block so we can just talk about it all at once. Yes, I'm back on the Barbie bandwagon along with Oppenheimer. It's interesting. Like the first piece here is that I'm trying to remember who said this, but Oppenheimer has been called the best and most important film of the century, and it was by Paul Schrader, who now I'm drawing a blank. What did he just recently do? Something I watched by him. But anyway, Taxi Driver. I just actually watched that a couple of nights ago. I haven't seen that since it was in the theaters. But yeah, he's a very prominent writer in Hollywood, and that's his sort of review of it. And the first bit of interesting news about the thing, I was joking about this 600-pound, 11-mile-long film. Xavier, the number one fan, XPK, the Wonder Kid, bought tickets for Jonathan and myself to see the 70mm IMAX cut in one of the theaters in Mississauga, and unfortunately, I can't go on Monday because I'm going to be in Chicago. But and it turns out there is no theater playing this anywhere near Chicago. Actually, there is 3 hours south at Indiana State University. Apparently, they're playing, or museum. They're playing they have the 70 millimeter ability to show this. Apparently, it's only being shown in 30 cinemas worldwide, and that's because normally IMAX film is, it's done on 70 millimeter stock, and they turn the image sideways, and it's, I don't know, it's not quite 4:3, but I'm sure Xavier will correct me, but it's, it's sort of a squarish format as opposed to long and wide, which is like 70 millimeter format. And they turn the image sideways, so they have more actual film grain for film media to work with, like to get a better, higher resolution film or picture. But in this case, it's the 70 millimeter aspect ratio turned on its side, so that it ends up using more film and has a larger projection area on the substrate, so that you get a much higher quality image projected onto the screen, right? So, but yeah, it's only, I guess, because of the only certain theaters can handle this because they have the projection, and yeah. So if you haven't got a ticket to see, and it's only for a short time, I'm not sure if it's like a week or two, but that's going to be an interesting thing. So yeah, I'm gonna probably go see it on Saturday in regular boring old format because there aren't many tickets available right now. And the next sort of story on this that we were talking about the last couple of weeks was the fact that they're calling it Barbenheimer now, because it's a lot of people are going to do a double feature of Barbie and Oppenheimer, or Oppenheimer and Barbie, and depending on that order, your experience of the film might be different, and that's going to be like a 5-hour experience, because Oppenheimer, I think, is close to 3 hours, if not over, and Barbie's got to be a couple of hours long. But looking at the numbers of pre-sales, Barbie is, I heard, despite what it says in this article, I heard this afternoon that Oppenheimer is sitting around 58 million for the weekend so far, and Barbie is looking at around over 150. So 3 times the sales of tickets on the Barbie version of these two movies. And looking at the show times here, at least in Toronto, it appears, I mean, notwithstanding the fact that Barbie's not in IMAX, right? So there are a lot of showings of Barbie as opposed to very few showings of Oppenheimer. However, though, I did add them up on one theater, and it's like 11 to 15 in terms of number of showings. So it's not quite so lopsided, but I mean, and not surprising. We've talked about this before, that Oppenheimer isn't quite as approachable as Barbie's not as approachable as the Oppenheimer movie, or sorry, the other way around. Oppenheimer's not as approachable to the Barbie type crowd or audience or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be. I don't know. The question is, what do you want to see first? Do you want to see shiny, pink, happy, smiley, attractive people, or do you want to see nuclear bombs and angst first? Do you want to bring yourself down and then back up? Do you want to bring yourself up and then have your third eye squeegeed from there? What's the best way to go?
Yeah, don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I think it's a different experience, right? Mind you, in both cases, thoughts of death are in both stories, right? So who knows? It's a Barbie world. But in this last follow-up story here, I just saw this a little while ago, and my teeth are gritting together as I talk about this one. But Fox News, everybody's favorite news network, is blaming Barbie for projecting toxic femininity, because it's emasculating men by making women seem empowered, and notwithstanding wearing pink. Yeah, I just, one of the best comments I saw on Twitter related to this was, "Oh, wait a minute, it's Fox News." Of course they're attacking this, but I mean, the whole concept of this, I've seen this in as a feminist, I've seen this over the years, and people are always, or there's always a debate as to, if the pendulum swings too far over to the feminist side, the men are going to suffer, and then, but the pendulum always swings back and forth. It tends to always land on the male side. So, I think, I think it's comical that they would call this toxic femininity.
Yeah, and the moral of this story is don't watch Fox News out there, kids. It's a tragedy.
Yeah, just sit back, enjoy the movie. Come on, it's just a movie about a doll, after all.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. I mean,
Hey, speaking of fun, I thought you two would love this story. I had to pull this one in here. So, there has been news this last couple of weeks that Disney is trying to disassociate itself from certain of its assets. Among that list, ESPN, that they think they could spin off into its own thing and maybe share ownership with another group or someone else. They're talking about maybe even getting rid of some of its television channels, including ABC, given the somewhat rapid decline of network television and cable. But the really interesting part is, and I've seen this in a few different places. This one, I grabbed the most reputable source I could find, which is Bloomberg.com, which is a reputable news source. And
I've heard of them, yeah.
This piece that we've got linked here speculates that there is a possibility that Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, might consider selling the whole shebang to Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before you guys jump in, and I know you're going to have thoughts, does it make sense? And is it realistic, or is this just something that people who write columns and stories would like you to think is possible?
Well, I think we have talked about this on More Than Just Code, in fact, just recently, because, I mean, I don't know if you watched the keynote address on, especially the announcement of the new Vision Pro spatial computing platform that Apple has been, everybody was anticipating, and Apple did, in fact, reveal at the conference. Disney took a big part of that display, saying that they would provide, they would have, movies and things like that converted over to support this Vision Pro platform. And because one of the things about Vision Pro was the idea that you could put the headset on. It looks very similar to the headset you would have in Ready Player One, where you put the headset on and you can turn off your background so it looks like you're sitting in a theater watching a movie, as opposed to actually being in a theater watching a movie, right? And of course, I don't know if it was Bob Iger, Jaime, if you might remember, but somebody prominent from Disney came and talked about how they're looking forward to working with Apple on this platform. So that is an indication that they're talking to each other, right? But Apple does that. They invite prominent third parties and developers and app game makers to build things with inside knowledge of the stuff that they're working on, and very, very few. It's a very exclusive ask from Apple, so that when they do launch a product, they have things to do with it on day one, kind of thing, right? We've also talked about the fact that the Vision Pro, just on that, to finish off on that, is a very expensive platform for the average consumer. We don't think More Than Just Code, myself, Mark and Jaime, don't think that it's something the average consumer is going to jump on. It's going to be early adopter kind of thing, and it's going to be very limited because of the manufacturing. But so we've talked about the possibility, and we've talked, even on this show, I think we've talked about the fat stacks of cash that Apple apparently has, and that they could afford to buy something like Disney. Does it make sense to me as a business? I'm going to go way out on a limb and make a projection about Apple, which I very rarely do, but and being facetious, folks, but because I've been wrong more times than I can tell you. But I don't think it makes sense, but because I think Apple is focusing, well, mind you, they're focusing on services, they're focusing on experience, they're focusing on, they're a hardware manufacturer under the hood, right? So, it's a possibility, but I don't think so. What do you think, Jaime?
Yeah, I kind of wonder how realistic it would be to buy sort of like the entire thing, but I could see them taking big chunks that Disney might not be all that interested in, right? That might make a little bit more sense there.
Yeah, not like the Disney Worlds and stuff like that, but maybe some of the content, right?
Yeah. Some of the content that, as so many of these companies like Max started out with and Paramount Plus has continued. They're like, well, do I really want to hang on to this thing? Is it worth paying the residuals? And sort of vaguely related to the two strikes. But Apple seems to be like, yep, we will totally pay for that because it's way cheaper than having to have produced it in the first place. And we want to continue to draw content to our growing and burgeoning streaming service. I could see that.
Yeah, but by the same token, I've talked about this before, that, I mean, Apple is the biggest phone manufacturer in the world, and they are, the biggest company in the world with $3 trillion, but market cap, but they're not the biggest computing platform in the world, right? So this doesn't help that side of the business, right? And I mean, I think they might have given up on trying to fight that battle against Windows and all the devices out there that are running Windows, include that, right? Like, creative people and music people, we all look at and go, oh, Macs are great and stuff like that. But, the thing about it, the reality is, in terms of installed computers out there, Windows is still far and away. They're the Netflix of, I think I mentioned this last week, they're like the Netflix of the business. It's really hard to compete with the installed base, right? But I don't know that buying Disney gives Apple any kind of advantage in that, other than puts them in a good place when it comes to streaming media, right? I don't know if they're really that concerned about it.
That part would make sense. Some Hulu stuff could make sense. I could see ESPN stuff making sense, or some combination thereof. Right. Just really depends on what Disney is willing to sell. I don't think it will ultimately end up being the main IP, because they've got that whole merchandise, theme parks, content sort of flywheel effect going on. So I feel like it'll be more things like, well, do we really benefit from like the bear appearing in Hulu? Are we going to go sell the bear, toys, and is the bear going to have characters running around our theme parks? Well, no, not really. So let Apple have that. Like, that could make sense. Kind of a similar thing for sports too.
I think about Apple or Disney as Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid and Goofy and Minnie and Mickey, and I don't have a perspective on the fact. I lose track of the fact that they own. I don't know what's on the menu. Like you mentioned, ESPN and Hulu and Star, I know is part of that too, right? But yeah, I don't know what all is on the table.
ABC, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a free form. They own a lot of broadcast content. To me, what this whole story said, and the thing that I took away from it the most, is if Bob Iger's looking to get out of the cable / network television world, including something that is theoretically as profitable as ESPN, things will be changing a lot over the next decade. Like how we watch even things like that are like appointment television, like sports, are fundamentally going to be different in the next decade than they are right now, let alone how they were 10 years ago.
True. I mean, well, it changed quite a bit when Rogers got the Hockey Night in Canada deal, right? Like all of a sudden, and we still have Hockey Night on Saturday on CBC, but we don't have like all the other. I mean, there's tons of games on the network that Rogers owns, right? From that point of view of hockey, and I think I mentioned last week that this is the first year I've not been able to watch the Tour de France because you have to have a specific subscription to a different network to watch that, right? Where it used to just be used to come with our healthcare, right? But didn't. I mean, it came with the Outdoor Living Network, which is part of our cable package. But yeah, so it's an interesting thought exercise, I guess. But again, as Jaime and I know from talking about Apple for the last 10 years, and even working with them even longer than that, you can't really guess what. I mean, you can surmise what Apple's going to do. You can look at some of the leaks that come out, but you really have no clue what Apple's going to actually do at the end of the day. Is that fair to say, Jaime?
Yeah, it's a really challenging thing because, like, look, the MLS thing kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. Right, like it was like hint, like, hey, they might get the NFL Sunday ticket, which ultimately ended up going over to YouTube TV, and now Apple has this MLS thing that might give them a wedge to include another sport, maybe one that's not quite as big a behemoth as the NFL, maybe. And if you're somebody who owns ESPN, and if Disney's willing to trade or barter or sell off ESPN, then it might make it plausible for you to get something like the NHL or MLB. I think the NBA and the NFL are maybe a little too big to get without spending some serious cash, but the other two leagues might be plausible now that you've got MLS leverage as a sort of a toehold as an industry.
Well, they have baseball too, right? On Apple TV?
Sort of.
Or was that an experiment that ended?
Sort of, I guess. It's like a very limited version. You're right. It's not the same as the MLS Pass. That's like get everything all season sort of thing, which like
right.
NFL
That's soccer, right? Major League Soccer you're talking about?
Yeah.
Sports ball. Sports ball.
Yeah, and the NFL Sunday Ticket is, every game for every team sort of thing. So I think you're right that the Friday night baseball and other stuff is a little bit of dipping their toes into that, and maybe gives them some leverage to bundle some of this stuff. So again, that's where it might make sense of like, hey, the ESPN doesn't really help Disney, doesn't really have the same flywheel effect here in the modern streaming era, the modern social media era, as it once did in the cable era. So maybe they might bundle that and sell it off to somebody like an Apple.
Just a quick sidebar. I was talking to a gentleman who works for Crave on their apps, and he was telling me that because I asked him, I sort of said like, hey, how come I can't? When you go into Apple TV and you've got your Netflix and you got your Prime and you've got your Disney and you've got your Apple TV shows. When I go to the main menu on Apple, I can see, what's in my what's next coming kind of thing. And I can see the Disney, like I can see, in Secret Invasion, I can see The Bear, I can see the shows that I'm watching on Apple TV, and across the top menu. Apparently there's part of the development SDK that you have to add to Apple TV so that the your shows like from Crave or whatever will show up on that top menu. And that's why I wondered why sometimes I see some Prime stuff, but I don't see some Crave stuff. And that's the reason why, is because of how it's connected and what account you're signed in with and all that other kind of stuff. But there is an actual way that the developers of those TV apps can make the stuff appear in that top row. He gave it a name, but I can't remember what it was. It was like top row or something like that. Cool. And this is a story I just saw today in my what's this thing called? This app that I'm using called Artifact, which is kind of interesting. It learns your reading habits or kind of sites you like to go to, so it kind of serves them up to you. But YouTube Premium has quietly hiked the subscription price in the US without announcing any kind of thing to folks. I think it's gone up by $20 a year if you're on a yearly subscription. It went up $2 from $11.99 to $13.99, and it's only been in the U.S. Hasn't affected. And it's only on new members at this point. And just interesting that's I think we're sort of seeing that all around. The minor increases over the year because people are recovering from various kinds of downturns that we had through COVID and things like that. And I guess maybe there's a slowdown a bit in subscriptions or something. I'm not sure, or just cost of doing business. But just interesting that they slowly, silently introduce this price increase.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be what they're doing now, right? And a lot of these organizations are just looking at the bottom line and looking at the sub numbers and saying, hey, $2 extra bucks per person is going to make a big bottom line difference, so let's go for it.
Yeah, it's like the terms and conditions in that episode of Black Mirror. Like, you did read the terms and conditions, didn't you? where Annie's character gets her life becomes a TV show on the Netflix. Yeah, and then one more thing, we talked about this off mic last week. I had seen that AMC had decided to start charging a premium price for the best seats in a theater, right? Like, if you want to sit in the center dead on, you would pay an extra premium couple of bucks onto the ticket to sit in those nicer seats, kind of like they do on airlines and stuff like that, right? But this was announced today that they have decided to scrap that idea. I mean, based on, the conversations we've been having about the number of people going to movies. I mean, Oppenheimer's sold out. Yes, Barbie's sold out. Apparently, the Tom Cruise Explodorama didn't do quite as well as anticipated. In fact, Indiana Jones had a better box office than the Impossible Mission movie. What's it called? No, Mission Impossible. It was an impossible mission for that one to kick Indiana Jones off the pedestal, even though it wasn't the first week for Indiana Jones. So I think that may be a reason why AMC has taken a step back on this idea. It was kind of dumb, if you ask me. I mean, I think we just pay what we have to pay to see a movie, but I don't know if I would. Would you? I mean, I've never sat in those D box seats, which are a couple of bucks extra to get shooken around, and I think they have smell-o-vision on the 4DX one, right? Mm-hmm. They spray you with water and stuff.
Yeah, I think the positioning was wrong here. Like, it feels abusive to be like, hey, the best seat, that costs more. Instead, it should be those crappy seats in the front row that the article mentions. Those are like half. Like, that feels different. Like, oh yeah, it's kind of a crappy seat, but I could crane my neck here. Like, I think that would have been the better approach, to start filling up the front rows that would normally be left alone for anything other than, premiere night, packed house sort of thing.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned too, when I saw Indiana Jones, I sat in the back row of an IMAX theater, and the theater was so deep that I was so far away from the actual screen that it might as well just have been a regular projection. I mean, there's very few. Xavier and I were talking about this the other day. There's very few cinemas where the actual, like in the case of IMAX, the screen is actually giant. Like Scotiabank Theatre here in Toronto, the Cinesphere, which is now closed for reconstruction, I guess, retrofitting. That one is another big screen. I don't know what IMAXs you have in Seattle, Jaime, but just putting IMAX on it, it's just the format, it's the ratio and the sound, I should say. It's got, the 21 speakers or whatever it is, but it's not always a great value, So I don't know. I mean, as it is, like, I went and saw the Indiana Jones and the Mission Impossible in the same room, and I paid like $21 or whatever, but I might as well have just gone to see it on a regular screen for all that I got that much better experience out of it, right?
Yeah. I don't understand. I don't understand. Recently, Cineplex here in Canada added a booking fee, which is the biggest load of horse manure that I've heard in a while, where basically they're charging you, on top of your ticket, they're charging you for the convenience of booking it online. Like, there's another way to do that nowadays. It's just another cash grab, and it's in poor taste, in my opinion, to do that as well.
You mean if I go to the theater and buy my ticket, like if it's like me and 5 other people sitting in a room, if I go to the theater and buy the ticket, I'd save money?
I guess. I don't know if it's that, or if it's basically for the privilege of having a specific seat choice that you get to do that, please, as opposed to not. Again, I cannot wait for the day that people start buying the front row tickets and then moving back and then having ushers come in and go, can I see your ticket to see if this is in fact your spot in this empty theater? I mean, what nonsense are we getting into now? Like, it's such a difficult time to get people to go to the movies. Maybe just shut up and let people go to the movies. I get that you're hurting for money, but maybe, that's a fundamental flaw in the business. Like, figure out a different way to do that. Wow. And hey, how about this? Don't charge $22 to go see a movie and $50 for popcorn and a drink. Yeah.
Okay, so now you have made me look at it. So yeah, here's an interesting thing. So this is my last ticket for, what is this? Yeah, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, $21.50. That's like, I know it's like $25 US, Jaime, but $21.50, and then a $1.50 booking fee. Oh, and then I got a Scene Plus discount, Jonathan, of 50 cents.
Oh, wow!
And then I have to pay tax because we have to subsidize our healthcare. Mm-hmm. So by the time you're done, I paid $23.43 for a $21 ticket.
And again, not to mention the fact that a $21 ticket on its own is pretty steep to go see a movie. It's pretty steep.
I remember, I would think if you had asked me what I would pay for a movie, I would have thought, $15, maybe $12. I wouldn't have thought, oh my God, this, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, $2.50 Tuesdays are long gone.
I was delighted when I was delighted when I, did they not do the Tuesday discount anymore?
I think they do, but I don't. It's certainly not $2.50.
Yeah, no, but when I saw Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark is what I saw. I think the ticket was like $9. I'm like, what? I'll have two at that price, you know.
Yeah.
And again, it was me and 5 other people in the room. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty. I think it's time to start talking about Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 6, Lost in Translation. What do you guys think?
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. All right. So what's your elevator pitch, Jonathan?
Oh, this one was easy. This is the easiest elevator pitch I might have ever had. We were talking about, this one, it's Uhura Here's a Who.
That's really good.
I mean, this whole episode is Horton Here's a Who, right? It totally is. It's Uhura Here's a Who.
A what? A who? Yeah. And yeah, 100%. Yeah. What was yours, Jaime?
Mine is not as good, so I wish I went first. So we'd be on an upswing instead of a downswing. So I wrote down, the Enterprise analyzes a gaseous star nursery, but Uhura is the only one with their head in the clouds.
Oh, that's it. I like that.
Which sounds neat, but it's not Uhura Here's a Who level of conciseness and awesomeness.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of Star Trek tropes, one of the things I totally missed on last week, and we didn't talk about it, and I'm sorry that we missed it, but was the sort of the angle of the tech support call, Jaime, on last week when Chapel and Uhura and Ortega are talking to the cloud anomaly, and it's kind of like, your problem is solved. Thank you. Hang up. Call. Go away. Your problem is solved. Kind of like. That I think that was just priceless, right? So
yeah, you want to just keep hitting 0 and saying
I want to speak to a human representative, exactly. Customer service. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this one at its root, we were talking about how they've been sort of zipping through Trek tropes this season. This is the one person's in on something that's happening and no one else is sure what they're seeing is real. It's a time honored Trek trope, but done really well in this case. They did a really nice job of taking that trope and really kind of running with it in this context. And I like the fact that they didn't just focus on the that storyline. They were touching on, the Jim Kirk and La'an thing. They brought that around. There was a little bit of the Spock and Chapel. Like, they kind of pulled all these threads together through the episode too. So yeah, of course, this was the overarching plot, but it felt like a real glue episode too, where it was kind of bringing some stories forward. And so if you were like, okay, it's clearly that's that noise, somebody's trying to get to her, whatever, again, I think Trek fans recognized pretty quickly what was happening. It still made it enjoyable all across the board. It was a good episode. It was not the best episode of the season, but it was really enjoyable. And I thought Celia Rose Gooding as Uhura was really good. I thought she did a great job in this one.
Yeah, there was a lot of. There was the two Kirk brother conflict conversation. There was the interesting that Uhura is the one that introduces in this particular timeline introduces Kirk and Spock. This is the first time we saw Kirk and Spock kind of meet each other, right? I mean, James Kirk. And again, Spock also cleaning up after George, is it George? Sam Kirk. After Sam Kirk, he picks up his cup and gives it to the waiter and says, "Annoying," right?
Yeah. Again, good pickup from last episode, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the only reason I know that is because they showed it in the preview, right? Which I don't always watch, but yeah. So there was a lot of that good stuff, and then the banter between Una and
Pelia,
Pelia, Karen Kane's character. I love the accent that Karen Kane is doing, because I mean it's so believable that is her actual voice, but it's not, Yeah,
well, Carol Kane's got a really good affinity for that. Again, she did the evil witch and Princess Bride and stuff like that. She likes to trot out the silly voices and stuff, and she's staying consistent at least.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so there's a lot of back and forth too, as in this story, and I like the idea that the psychological. I mean, like we had the one where Kirk is in the space suit and he gets stuck in the transporter buffer and he's floating around and people can see him, but because there was an episode, I think Uhura sees him floating into her cabin in the original series. So there's a lot of that. There's the episode where nobody can see Yoshi kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And she has to use Morse code. There's a lot of these sort of transporter accidents, but I like the fact that because when they showed Hammer, right, and they used Hammer as a sort of metaphor for how these ideas are getting into Uhura's head, and it wasn't until M'Benga tells her that you're experiencing it's your subconscious or your brain is becoming the universal translator by using images, like the people are communicating you through images from your own brain, and that would be the death of Hammer and how distressed he looks. And at the in the resolution he looks all fine and he gives her a wink and a smile kind of thing, at the end. It wasn't like, you're kind of thinking, wait, is Hammer coming back? Did he somehow survive that thing? Like, how is he now way across the universe in this cloud? And is it one of these tropes where they're going to bring back a character, like there's going to be 2 Rikers now and 2 Boimlers, but yeah, no, I like the fact that they used the psychological angle of and then Uhura, that's where she sort of figures out that's what's going on, right, in her own head, right?
Speaking of which, the best pew pew pew, there was a couple of little action bits in there, but I like the Uhura versus Uhura scene. I always like it when they try and do an actor fighting themselves, and I like that the punchline, pardon the pun, of that is she wakes up from her delusion and she's smacked James Kirk in the face.
My pew 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 was the banter back and forth between Una and Pelia. I found that interesting.
They did have that
the master and the student kind of thing, right? And now the student is the boss.
That was like the B line or maybe the C storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that they brought that one back to, you gave me a C, so I'm mad at you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Because you're wondering like because she does say to her, "What is your problem with me?" Right at one point, Pelia says that to Una, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get into that in the quotes, because that was a great quote.
My pew 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 was sort of a tie between the literal pew 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 of destroying the station and the weirdly unnecessary sequence. So credit to the folks who wanted to try this. I'm going to call him Razor Ramon for reasons. Exploding out of after he was kind of going nuts from the aliens talking to him. Like, they not only show him explode out, but then we pan the camera to sort of follow him icing up. Is an interesting choice for your budget. So
give you a
little tip of the hat
weird,
for the attempt there.
Yeah, I had that in my big question. Was it really necessary to spend the CGI budget on the slow motion death of Lieutenant Ramon as opposed to, I don't know, like any number of other things?
Yeah, 100%.
They had dollars left over to spend, because the sort of final unnecessary, I'm not saying it was a bad shot, but the final unnecessary shot of CGI was Uhura at the controls, and you can see like the station and cloud still kind of crumbling and dealing in the background. I'm like, that's realistic, that's cool, but like, you could have just shown us a wall or a really tight close up or something to save your dollars. So I feel like they had budget to spend. Like somebody said, if your budget's less, the next year you get less.
I hate to say it, but they probably could have spent that on residual checks.
Yes.
Right?
Amen.
Right. Sorry, folks, but yeah.
The Easter egg for this one is the running theme, right? It's the first contacts. Kirk gets to meet all these people who are going to be so important in his life, right? He gets to meet Uhura for the first time. At the end, he gets to meet Spock for the first time, and then he actually meets Pike in the middle there too, right? So,
well, no, he met Pike last year, didn't he?
No, because Pike introduces himself. So,
did he? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I guess not.
Huh.
Yeah, there was some minor news about this is the first time that this is prime timeline Kirk for this actor. So he's been alternate reality Kirk in the Balance of Terror alternate reality. He was Tirana alternate reality Kirk, and now he's for realsy Kirk.
But didn't we see Kirk last season?
He I think it was all alternate reality stuff, and like the closest thing you could say is the little video chat that La'an does with him after she comes back this season from the Toronto timeline.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that while we're talking. Yeah, no, he was in season 1, episode 10, Quality of Mercy. So he was in Toronto. Sorry, that's the name of our episode. Tomorrow. And he was in this one today, and then but he was also in the Quality of Mercy last season 1, episode 10.
Which I thought was the alternate timeline, though, right? Of like, what
is it?
What if Pike was still captain of the Enterprise when Balance of Terror
yeah, you're
occurred?
right. 100%. Yeah, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
So this is the first. Technically, it's the second time, because in that tomorrow at the end, we see real Kirk, right? On the video screen talking to La'an. That's really Kirk. It's the same Kirk we just saw this week. It's just we never saw him in the flesh, right?
But so Anson Mount as Pike has met a Kirk or James Kirk, because he knew, like, he met him last, because that was all in his alternate timeline, but he remembered those events, right? Isn't he meant to remember that stuff, Pike?
Yeah, but he
wouldn't think so.
He still would not have really met this version of Kirk,
not
right?
the real guy. Yeah, so this Kirk wouldn't have known that he had met Pike, but Pike would know that he had met Kirk, is what I'm going with that, right? In the same sense of
my precious brain.
There will be a test later, folks. Yes.
Yeah, no kidding. Some say time travel and alternate dimensions make these shows confusing, but I'm fine.
Yes, let me go eject the warp core.
Jaime, do you have any more Easter eggs?
I wrote the same thing around, Sam and James Kirk. They mentioned their father, George Kirk, from the Calvinist stuff. The meeting of Uhura, Kirk, and Spock, which nicely worked out as a primary color red, yellow, blue sort of thing, especially with how vibrant these uniforms are in this iteration. So, yeah, it's very minor.
Have they mentioned the Universal Translator before? I know that they had the anomalies they were talking to last year, right? Last season.
Yeah, I think they've had it for a while, because at one point earlier this season, they say something about the Universal Translators being implanted.
Oh, and not working and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay.
I think it was the episode where they go down to the planet where they forget. That was, 2 weeks ago or last week? They mentioned that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Let's get some quotes. I got a quote.
Okay, what's your quote?
I lost my quote's from the next show.
We'll save that one for the next show then. Yeah, I flagged a few. So when Ortegas gets the order to go collect deuterium in the nebula, rip some donuts to the gas cloud. Aye, sir. I typically don't base my decision making off feelings and smells, says Una to Pelia. I thought that was a funny line as the two of them start their little sort of bickering feud. I think your nightmare visions are turning you into a sadist, says Kirk after getting punched in the face by Uhura. This is the one from Una to Pelia. You're sloppy, okay? You don't respect protocols. You're too loose with discipline. You don't follow orders unless you feel like it. And you have crumbs on your uniform. When did you even eat? You're like a space hippie.
Yeah.
Space hippie is a great line. And then, Kirk's last line, invisible aliens are using your brain as a universal translator? That also could have been the summation of this episode.
True, yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, good episode. Again, they're continuing a hot streak. They're still putting out good ones. And next week, I think, is the crossover with our favorite Lower Deckers.
Ooh.
That's right. They did show the preview on the Ready Room. So I got to see Boimler. I got to see Huey. I forget the actor's real name. Huey as Boimler, the physical version of Boimler.
The guy from the Boys. That guy. Mm-hmm. He's the son of Melanie Griffin and that guy.
His name is Jack Quaid. His dad.
I knew it was a Quaid. I couldn't get Quaid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And his mother.
I don't know who's his mom.
His mother is, I think it's Melanie Griffith. Oh, hang on. His parents are actors, are both famous, 80s actors. Jack Quaid, right?
Yeah, Jack Quaid.
Jack Quaid.
Oh, Meg Ryan.
Yes, Meg Ryan. Yes, we talked about that. Yeah.
There you go.
I was close. Melanie Griffith, Meg Ryan, they probably went to the same auditions. We talked about that before. Anyway.
That's it.
They used to compete with Jennifer Lawrence and Emma Stone for
Emma Stone,
roles.
yeah, of course. Yep. Do you think we'll see much more of Kirk in Strange New Worlds? It feels like he's kind of encroaching.
Yeah, I mean, without running into the prequel problem, it's interesting too that he's like a lieutenant at this age, right? Or this phase of the thing.
They make a point of saying that here, right? That he's the youngest first officer. He's going to be the youngest first officer in Starfleet history, beating the record that was set by his dad. And that's kind of part of the feud that he has with Sam, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so in this timeline, wait a minute, I'm getting confused now. In this timeline, is his dad Chris Hemsworth, who died in the big accident with... Because his father does die in space, right? His mother gives birth to him, right? Isn't that the story, or
that's
or
the
was
story?
He really born
That's the Kelvin storyline. In the other one, he's born in Ohio, right? Or Iowa, rather.
Yeah, that was in Iowa.
Yeah, not on
so
the USS
he's not a
Iowa.
Beastie Boy
Iowa.
fan. He's not a Beastie Boy fan, then I guess.
Well, no, because in his main timeline story, he grows up on Earth and then travels around with his dad in Starfleet, right?
Yeah, because the other dude said he was born in space, right? Last week. I wonder if he's the Kelvin timeline Kirk.
Oh,
no, he can't be, because that's Christopher Pine,
my
right?
Brain.
Sorry, that's Christopher Pine. Never mind. Take that back.
Yeah, if it helps, in the tomorrow timeline, because Earth hadn't gotten to the right spot and everything, like without the eugenics wars, World War III stuff because of Khan, then that Kirk was born on the USS Iowa, so he was a space person, whereas prime timeline Kirk is from Iowa, the state, on the planet Earth. So that probably needs to go into like a Wikipedia entry somewhere clarified.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, that's good. I forgot my big Kirk question, my big Pike question. So here's my question about the episode. So when Ramon runs away, right? All of a sudden, all of the staff from the Enterprise disappears, and Pike has to take a gun and go looking for this guy. Doesn't he have people for that?
Well, you don't want to delegate all your responsibilities, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, again, it's that whole alpha team does all the work kind of thing. And then wouldn't you think that if the guy turned off the lights, that they would have some sort of backup system to turn them back on again?
Yeah, it seems strange that you could open up one panel and deactivate all the lights in an area, right?
Yeah, on the entire ship, it seems, right? So
yeah.
And then, of course, they tell Uhura to wait till we get there, and she goes ahead and opens the Jeffrey tube anyway.
It's funny because the episode is the C arc, as Jaime put it, is about Una and not liking Pelia for disobeying orders and being, her own person. And it's like, but also, what about everyone else who keeps disobeying orders?
Yeah, and the Prime Directive, and yeah.
Yeah.
And Una, at the beginning of the season, hello.
Introducing Carvana Value Tracker, where you can track your car's value over time and learn what's driving it. It might make you excited.
Whoa, didn't know my car was valued this high.
It might make you nervous.
Uh-oh, market's flooded. My car's value just dipped 2.3%.
It might make you optimistic.
Our low mileage is paying off. Our value's up.
And it might make you realistic.
Car prices haven't gone up in a couple weeks. Maybe it's time to sell.
But it will definitely make you an expert on your car's value. Carvana Value Tracker. Visit Carvana.com to start tracking your car's value today.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else we can say about this before we move on to the secret invasion?
Nope. I think we're ready for a secret invasion.
Yeah, no, you took Mike Crumb's comment. All right, so Space Hippie.
Space Hippie.
All right, time to move on to Secret Invasion, Season 1, Episode 5. I just realized I'm probably not going to see Episode 6. Harvest. Oh, it's on Wednesday night, right? Yeah, no.
Yeah, it comes out first thing Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah, I got distracted by Wednesday. I'll talk about that in the watch list. But yeah, cool. So my elevator pitch is actually one of the quotes. Who the hell isn't a Skrull these days?
Yeah, it's fair.
As said by Olivia Colman. What's yours?
I had.
Oh wait. Jaime, what's your pitch?
Oh, sorry, Jaime has to go first this time. Sorry.
Mine's not going to be as good. I can feel it in my bones because I wrote, it's the end of the world as we know it, where everyone's a Skrull and each side prepares for the final confrontation.
All right, well, that's good. That's very dramatic. I had, he's got his coat, his patch, and a vial of Avengers DNA. Welcome back, OG Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So can we talk about that for a second? Like, what is the point? Like, did he change jackets? Is that significant?
Well, through
Put
this
the patch
whole,
on?
through this whole thing, he's been old man Fury with the bushy beard and the toque, no eye patch. I think it's supposed to be, you know, if you're going to go to war, put on the fatigues, I think is the idea, right? Like by putting on the eye patch, by putting on the coat, by, you know,
like, is it a
dressing himself as
bulletproof
the
eye
part.
patch and a bulletproof coat? That's what I was thinking. Like, does the coat have like technology or something?
Maybe, or it just looks
You know,
cool.
Tim, this is where I said a quote that should have been in here is, "Where is my super suit?"
Yeah, that's right. Where is my super suit?
As Frozone in The Incredibles, because it's like it's sort of a reverse Mr. Rogers, you know, where like Mr. Rogers comes home, takes off, you know, some stuff, puts on
Yeah,
other
his sweater.
stuff. Yeah, it's a, you know, you're getting in the mood. The clothes make the person sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Huh.
So this was a kind of a glue episode, as you'd expect with a penultimate episode. It's a lot of stage setting. Marvel TV shows have had a bit of a track record for not sticking the landing. It'll be interesting to see how this all comes together. But this one, yeah, it kind of felt like a tweener, right? There were some good moments. Olivia Colman continues to be far and away the highlight of this show. But yeah, I mean, you know, there was a couple of good scenes, but it was kind of just felt like, yeah, like between the assassination attempt on the president at the end of the last episode and the death of Talos, and then sort of segueing into, you know, finding out exactly what it is that Gravik wants and sort of Fury preparing for war, it just did kind of feel like a bit of a glue episode and not, you know, I mean, I guess there was a couple good scenes. The assassination attempt on Gravik is what I had for my pew pew pew. Mm-hmm. The hit squad sent to kill Priscilla and theoretically Gaia, since she happened to be there, was also a pretty decent action scene. But it was, yeah, it just kind of felt like sort of, yeah, more glue than substance.
Mm-hmm. My best pew pew pew, I think you mentioned there, is I described it as Home Alone John Wick. Defending the house. Right. You have stuff all over the house, the little flash grenades and the backpacks prepared with guns, but it's, well,
it was
kind
Nick
of
Fury's house too.
Violent.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. It was a little bit more violent like John Wick, but it's like a Home Alone John Wick combo, I think.
I always find it really surprising in these scenes, like Gaia and Priscilla are just standing in the kitchen having a conversation when the teapot next to them gets shot and they jump behind the counter. When you are there to kill someone and you've got a long range rifle, how do you miss? Like, you have the element of surprise. They're standing in plain sight in front of a window. I get that it's good, you know, dramatic storytelling to be like, oh, they just narrowly escaped. But like, come on, man. If you're going to send a kill squad.
We've talked about it before. Those stormtrooper helmets are hard to see through, right?
Well, and you know what? You get what you pay for with a kill squad, really. I feel like people are just not paying for top quality kill squads anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
Residuals. That's what gets them coming back. Residuals.
It's the tools. Yeah, they don't take the time to properly calibrate their guns.
Align the sights. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What movie is that? There was the movie with Richard. Not Roundtree? Is it Richard Roundtree?
The sights are off?
No, there's a movie about an assassin who has to shoot Charles de Gaulle, and he has this rifle.
Is it the Jackal?
He puts the Day of the Jackal. Yeah, the original Day of the Jackal. Yeah. That's a great movie. And he, even the scene where he hangs a grapefruit from a tree like miles away, and then, you know, takes a shot and then looks how far he missed it by and takes a little screwdriver and does it like a quarter turn and adjust the aim, right? Yeah, they don't take time to do that anymore in shows, I guess. They just take a gun and shoot it, right?
Yeah, you know, everybody just wants to spray bullets across the room and hope they hit something. It's an art to actually shoot something and hit it, you know?
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought the assassination...
We shouldn't make light of that. We shouldn't make light of that. Somebody was shot just around the corner from my house last week as an innocent bystander. But anyway...
The assassination attempt scene I thought was really interesting. You know, we've been watching this character, Beto, who is the black Skrull who wears the ear flap hat. And so very distinctive. And he's, as these missions have been going on, you can tell that he is sort of, you know, questioning, you know, oh, you know, this is pretty messed up. You know, how far are we going here? And then in this one, at the very beginning of the episode, we see Gravik kills Pagon, who's his sort of right-hand guy for questioning him. And then that spurs this group of Skrulls who are like, okay, we're all gonna like bum rush Gravik and try and kill him. Of course, Gravik's already got the Super Skrull powers, so that was a pretty poor choice. Which leads me to my question, the big question. Like, one person, one bullet? Again, I know I don't want to make light of gun violence, but like, if you're going to go after the guy who's got the super healing powers and you know that he's got the super healing powers, is the idea we have to try and like suffocate him because that's the only thing you can kill him because you can't shoot him? I'm thinking it still is probably an advantage to put like 30, 40 bullets in the back of his head before you try and suffocate what's left of him. I just thought that was pretty weak sauce. And again, in the moment there where he like kills Beto, I thought, well, was that that's why we had that character from the first episode on, questioning, making decisions, so he could finally be like, okay, I've got the stones, I'm going to stand up to him, to only have Gravik kill him? I just felt like that was, again, a bit of a weak arc for that character.
Yeah, especially since they had been developing him for all that time, right? So
yeah. Like, I thought maybe it was going to come around where, like, yeah, Gravik would corner Gaia and he might, you know, decide to do the right thing or something. Like, I thought there was going to be a good arc. And again, the fact that he finally does stand up to Gravik is one thing, but like that in a minute and 30 seconds after standing up for himself, he's dead is not exactly an inspiring thing. I guess you're supposed to be like, well, the only person that can stop Gravik is Fury, but I don't know. Just thought that was kind of weak. Easter egg, I'm sure you guys saw the same thing. So Rick Mason showed up in this. So that was the character we saw. He's the pilot in Black Widow. He's the one that's flying the two widows around at the end, and yeah,
where do we see him?
He was in Black Widow. He was the pilot that.
No, I mean, where do we see him in this show?
Oh, he's the one when Fury needs to go to Finland. He gets onto a private plane, and there's a guy there, sort of standing there, and he's kind of, you know, making fun of him, and you know, yeah. I guess if you know who that is, yeah, that's Rick Mason. So.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was an Easter egg because I had forgotten that he was the pilot in Black Widow, but the actor is like I just assume he lives in the precise geographic center of Toronto because he comes out in like everything. He is the husband of Offred in Handmaid's Tale, and he's been in like a bazillion other things. Like, you need a Canadian actor who looks kind of like that. That's the dude you call up.
Okay, in fairness, he's British. His name's O.T. Fegbiani.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, he's British.
He keeps showing up in all these, you know, made in Toronto stuff.
Yeah. No, he's actually he's not ours, but thanks for the love and respect. But he's actually British, and yeah, he's been in a lot of different things. You're right, Jaime. He's one of those guys where you're like, I don't necessarily know his name. I had to look and remind myself. I knew him, but I couldn't remember his name till I looked it up yesterday. But
so he's Offred's husband in Handmaid's Tale?
Yep. He's Luke.
Oh, that
right?
guy. Okay. Oh, yeah. That guy. Yeah. That guy. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. And again, he's in like 2 or 3 scenes in Black Widow. He's the pilot that takes them from place to place, and yeah. So yeah, just a little callback, little Easter egg in there for you for people who are so into it they remember all the scenes from Black Widow. Quotes. I thought this was a poignant one from Fury. Talos chose the path of struggle. He did not lose. I thought that was very poignant. And Falsworth, Olivia Colman, my God, what a great actress. Would you like to be me? I'm staggeringly versatile. To give you a couple of examples, I'm very good at being your bestie. I'm also devilishly good at not being your bestie. It's really just a matter of taste. Cake or death. The males in my species are very similar. If they're not busy gaslighting you, they're threatening you with murder. That's what all the podcasts are about. And
Yes, that was a good one.
And then your line, Tim, I think was the best one. Well, who the hell isn't a Skrull these days? When she finds out that Rhodey is.
Yeah, I was surprised that she didn't know that Rhodey, because that's the kind of thing she would kind of know, right?
That's I had the same thought. I was like, it's so funny because she's, she had deduced that the director of SIS was a Skrull and confronts and puts a bullet in his leg. She has been the sharpest knife in this whole drawer. It seemed kind of strange, but then I suppose if you look at it, she would have had probably no interactions with Rhodey. So, I guess she could have probably figured there was somebody close to the president, but there's no real reason to assume why she would know that unless an informant gave her that information. Whereas Fury's obviously been like face to face with Reptile Rhodey a few times, right?
Lots of great quotes there. The one I have was, the SIS has no official policy on killing Skrulls, so if you don't want me to go with my personal preference, then you'd better start talking.
I like that. Yeah.
It's just the quips are coming out fast and furious.
Oh, she's delight because she's playing this like clearly sociopath, but with just glee. And, in these bright colors and with this beautiful sparkle in her eye. Again, she's really talented. She just jumps out off the screen. So this was the penultimate episode last week. Next week is the finale. It's been a bit of an uneven series. I can't say it's my favorite of the Marvel Disney Plus TV shows so far. Obviously, I don't want to render a judgment before we get to the end, but I do want to ask you both, do you have high hopes that this will land satisfactorily? I mean, again, it's Gravik versus Fury. It's the showdown episode. There'll be a lot of pew pew pew. Do you feel like they can land this in a way that's going to redeem and or make you feel like this was a better than average show?
Yeah, I don't know. The whole MacGuffin of the Marvel DNA, I wonder what the application of that's going to be. Just are they going to turn on, make Super Avengers to take on the Super Skrulls? That sounds kind of a convenient mechanism, right? Don't know.
Yeah. The part I don't understand is why actually bring the vial? Like, if you're going to go and have a showdown with this guy, if you're going to go in guns a-blazing, why do you actually need to have the harvest? Why not just...
Yeah, and what was the deal with that tombstone? Like, why did it have to be so complicated? And, what is the purpose of that?
For the record, Tim, should I pass before you? I would like my tombstone to have some kind of special device hidden inside.
That I have to blow on? Or
for sure. Or use your retinal scan.
Optical
just
recognition.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'll make a note of that. Yeah.
Even just something with a speaker in it that just plays nonstop loop of Spockcast episodes.
Sure. Oh, that would be good. Yeah. What? Or a non-stop loop of Jaime saying, "How's it going?
How's it going? How's it going?"
That's what's going to be on his epitaph. Right?
I think we need to put a motion sensor on Jaime's tombstone one day. Every time somebody walks by, "How's it going?" What? Who said that?
With the breathalyzer, vault that opens up. Yeah,
that's right. All right, Jaime, how about you?
Well, my big question was kind of related to y'all's wondering, why bring the vial? And I was wondering here, how will Fury kill or stop Gravik? Is it going to be an overactive mix of all the Avengers DNA of, you want to eat, then eats until you're bursting at the seams? Is that what's going to happen? Because otherwise it feels like it'd be better to destroy the vial and take your chances.
And it's one of those ampules where you have to break the top to open it, right? And then you can't seal it back up once you're done, right? So it's a one and done application. Seems kind of silly.
Is that like salad dressing? Have they got all the ingredients in there? Do you just take a snoot from that and all of a sudden you've got all the DNA? What's the point?
Yeah. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's magic DNA, right? It's going to convert your DNA strands into a super Avenger, right?
I guess. We'll see. I don't know. I hope they can stick the landing, but I'm a little nervous because this has been a pretty uneven series. The question
is, when you drink this stuff, which Thor do you become?
Hopefully the one in the good movies.
All right. So let's move on to our watch list. Jaime, you're up first for a change.
Yeah, I need to take a look at see where this is available in Canada, if at all. But here, there's sort of a weird double combo of Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, specifically having some broadcast rights for My Adventures with Superman, and Max having, I don't know, day of or very soon thereafter. But it's one that I think we may have talked about, that it was in production. It's kind of lighter fare. I kind of feel like it's meant for like people who would have enjoyed Avatar: The Last Airbender as kids, where you would be sort of not like a tiny kid, but you're not really like a teenager either. You're probably like a tween. It's got sort of that American anime style influence, if it makes sense. And the characters are a bit younger. It's, Clark Kent is, he doesn't really know who he is, but he is aware that he has powers. He's starting to learn more about those powers, and he's Clark Kent joining the Daily Planet as an intern, along with Jimmy Olsen, who's his roommate, and Lois Lane is a slightly older intern, new employee kind of thing. Like she's been there like a year before or something is the sort of idea. So they really drop a lot of interesting references very quickly from the first 2 episode when I just couldn't keep up with the references even without pausing. I was like, oh, I think that's a reference to Starro, the Atlanteans, Gorilla Grodd, Livewire's actually in the episode, Slade Wilson, Amazo, Cat Grant. I'm like, holy smokes, like somebody like really knew what they were doing here. And if you really wanted to go probably scene by scene and catch all the references for things that they're laying the groundwork for, it's kind of I wouldn't call it baby's first Superman because it's not quite that young, but it certainly feels like, are you getting into this fresh and early? What if you have a Lois Lane that's a lot more younger, go get him, hasn't really become the big time reporter. Jimmy Olsen is like really into conspiracy theory, Twitter kind of stuff, of like that's where he mentions some of the weird things like Starro and the Atlanteans. And then Clark Kent as, new guy, new intern who's, like a big beefcake, but doesn't really know his place and really humble. It's fun. You can see how it's built to be like that kind of show. It has that Avatar: The Last Airbender. The characters will grow and develop along with you, and they start from like, if it was a level 1 video game, they start at level 1, and they're going to start growing up, I think, season by season. So it's something I think to try out with the family. I don't know that it's must-watch television, but it's probably something where you'll feel pretty okay bringing the family in and help them understand these character archetypes of Superman and etc.
Yeah, it's good that they're doing. Yeah, it's good that they're doing stuff like this still, because I think what gets lost on some of these large organizations sometimes is that, it's the old Stan Lee adage. I think I mentioned in a previous episode, every comic is someone's first comic. Well, every time some kid sits down to watch a cartoon on terrestrial TV, ha 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 ha, wherever a kid discovers a cartoon that's tied to a comic book character or something that has the mythology and the legacy of something like Superman or Batman or these characters that have existed for, coming closer and closer to a century, they can be impenetrable. It's nice to give these people access points and places where they can start fresh with their own stories. And yeah, maybe it's not, page for page, the origin that everyone agrees on, but it's close enough that, it's good to have these starting points. I'm glad they still make shows like this.
So it's available on Global TV in Canada.
Yeah, the other one that Just Watch shows is an Amazon channel, I guess an add-on. You can Stack TV. I've never heard of. This is not something I know in the America.
It's interesting. It's a new. If you drop cable, you still can access cable type shows through Stack TV by getting a subscription. I don't know if it's only Amazon that has. Yeah, I guess it is Amazon Prime, right? It says here. Yeah, because if you're thinking about cable cutting, and we're kind of sort of there right now. In my family, Stack TV may be an alternative to pick up some of the channels that we would get with our healthcare.
Right. Surprisingly, not available on. Apparently, not available through Apple, even though it looks like it's for purchase on Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google Play, and Vudu here in the States. So something weird with the rights there. I'm sure, to Jonathan's point, since the DC characters are so much like, mythological gods like, Zeus and Hercules and etc., the getting close for the gist of it and the heart of it is probably the bigger takeaway, rather than being nitty gritty on decades and decades and decades of comic book continuity.
Yeah.
All right. So for my a couple of things. One is I've seen this trailer in a couple of movies. I don't know. I hadn't really heard much about it other than I've seen it in the front of the Indiana Jones movie and the Mission Impossible. It's a movie called The Creator, which is sort of a sci-fi extravaganza. I don't want to give too much away, but if you watch the trailer, you'll sort of get the gist of it. Sort of a dystopian future world where AI is taking over, and it stars Denzel Washington's son. I always forget his name.
John David Washington.
Thank you. That's the guy. So it looks really interesting. Looks really sort of high tech, and probably be good on a big screen. So I'll have to wait and see for that one to come out. And a couple of things are TV shows. Bear Season 2 dropped on Disney. Now, it's been on Hulu. I think it started weeks ago, and I don't know how they dropped it on Hulu, but I'm a bit annoyed that they dropped it all at once. Like all 6 or 8 episodes are available today on Disney in Canada. I've watched the first 3 episodes, of course, because it was one of my favorite shows last year. But what was good about it last year was they would show 1 episode at a time, even though it had been shown in the States prior to appearing in Canada. I'd rather have it like 1 episode per week kind of thing, rather than dominate my entire. It's not a show you want to binge. It's a show you want to watch and savor and mull about, and then anticipate the next episode. In my opinion, anyway. But so sad that they dropped it. But I'm happy that it's one of my favorite shows for sure. But sad that they've kind of dropped it the way they did. And on Jonathan's urging, I started watching Justified. Justified has become my new. Busy working, half paying attention, half watching show. It's pretty good. I think I'm 3 episodes in, and I had seen part of episode 2, but I hadn't watched the whole thing because I didn't get the whole gist of the story. But it's interesting. Boy comes home. You can never go back kind of story, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of a gunslinger type marshal. So it's really really interesting from that point of view. But like I said, I'm just 3 episodes in, so.
Yeah, it's a weird mashup of sort of a little bit Western, a little bit family drama, and a lot of crime noir, right? So it's, even though it's set in rural Kentucky, it really has like a little bit of, the sort of Dashiell Hammett, crime, gritty 1930s crime kind of stuff to it. Everybody's hiding something. Everybody, even the best people are flawed. It's it's a great watch. I recorded they dropped the first 2 episodes of the new miniseries this week. I recorded them yesterday, but I haven't had a chance to sit and watch them yet. So that's
it's on cable TV or something, or
here it's on I think FX.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. I just grabbed a couple of things. So Venture Brothers, Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon's Heart, which is the sort of coda film that they've done to wrap up Venture Brothers, is coming out on July 21st, the Friday, on digital. It's coming out next week on Blu-ray. If you're a fan of Venture Brothers, it promises to wrap up some of the sort of long-running mysteries over the series' 7 seasons. Maybe we'll even find out who the Venture Brothers' mother is finally. Although there was some speculation and some hinting in season 7, so who knows? But I'm feeling bittersweet about this one. I'm excited to watch it because I've been a long-time fan of the Venture Brothers. It's a very funny, very silly story, and I've really enjoyed being along for the ride. But knowing that this is the last bit they're going to do, it was canceled as a TV show. They did get this opportunity to do this movie to wrap it up. But it's bittersweet to know that this is the end. But also, I'm excited to see if again, like, they can land this plane and make it a satisfying ending. San Diego Comic-Con is this weekend. As I mentioned earlier in the show, it's a very different Comic-Con than what we've seen in the past, given the absence of so many celebrities because of the strikes that are going on. A lot of the studios aren't bothering to do presentations. So the whole Hall H, premiering a new trailer, bring out the cast, do all that stuff. Nada on that front. There's not much happening on that front. I think what we're going to get more of this weekend is more, we'll get information about some new comics that are coming out over the next year and stuff like that. I saw something drop today about a new X-Men series that's coming next year, so I'll bring you back a recap for next week's episode. We can talk about the news, but I suspect that compared to San Diego Comic-Cons of the past number of years, it's going to be pretty subdued and not quite as jam-packed with stuff as we've seen in the past. So. And I had to put this one in here. I don't know if either of you had a chance to click this link. If you haven't, I highly suggest you do. This was actually announced a couple of months back, but it completely eluded me because I don't spend a lot of time at Hallmark.com. But when they were announcing this year's upcoming ornaments, they announced this amazing ornament that you can give to someone as a Christmas gift and or a Life Day present if you feel so inclined. It is a little diorama of the moment where Han Solo goes into the carbon freezing machine in Cloud City, and it's got a button on it, and when you press the button, it plays the music, it plays the dialogue, and then Han standing on the platform descends and to the same crescendo of music you hear in Empire Strikes Back, and then is raised from the ground and replaced with this slab of Han Solo and carbonite. It is the most bonkers thing I've seen to hang on a Christmas tree in a long time. It is so completely over the top as far as the amount of stuff they've added in here. It's not like it's a hand in carbonite. It's like, no, it's a whole scene complete with dialogue. It's really, really funny. I at the very least, click the link and go and watch the video they've made where they just press the button and watch this thing go. It is fascinating. I'm totally going to go to the Hallmark store and just press the button over and over again.
Cool. We can buy it in the stores. I see it's unavailable online. It's already sold out. Cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, this just in. So our new friend of the show, Keen, who I work with at Spot Hero, just sent me something privately on our Slack channel, and it's the script for the Menagerie, right? And it starts with the episode where Spock takes the ship to Starbase. Starbase. What did he say? Starbase 11, right? And Kirk says to Menendez, who's the in charge over there, that they received Spock received a subspace message from Christopher Pike, and at which point the Menendez says that's impossible. And then here's the lines. I'm going to read it to you. So they in the intensive care area. He says, you got to come and meet Christopher Pike, right? He says, have you ever met Christopher Pike? Kirk, when he was promoted to fleet captain. Menendez, about your age, big and handsome guy, vital, active. Kirk, I took over for him from the Enterprise. Spock served with him for several years. 11 years, 4 months, and 5 days, says Spock, right? Anyway, so this is when Kirk meets Pike after the accident. He doesn't know about the accident at this point in time. So interesting sort of bit of dialogue in context of how they kind of met today, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on, and then this is again where we start creeping closer to the prequel problem.
Yeah,
these are two icons of Star Trek. Anson Mount is quickly carving himself a spot on the Mount Rushmore of captains, and you want to see these two characters interact, but you can undo stuff pretty easily by doing that. So
yeah, and I remember from the, there was a bit of empathy with Kirk and the future Pike in the Menagerie, because he kind of addresses him in first name and as if he knows him well, kind of thing. So that's one impression I got from that episode, right? Yeah. So I guess from the point of view of television, it kind of like, hey, this Christopher Pike guy, and then you see him in condition he is in the menagerie, and you're kind of, oh yeah, I guess he couldn't possibly have sent that message. Mind you, could have. I guess in the 60s they couldn't imagine that somebody who was, disabled could send a subspace message. But we all know today that, with the power of Siri and Alexa and Google and all the accessibility tools we have today, it totally is possible for someone like in that position to send a subspace message, right?
Yeah.
And at that, I guess that's it for another week. So, hey, Jonathan, people want to get in touch with you. Where would they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Threads as @JPK News, or on YouTube at youtube.com/@JPK.
So we didn't talk about this today, but did you hear that Threads has had a huge drop-off in use?
Yeah, it's not surprising. Again, people jump in, but people still don't know what to do with it. So, is what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of, because it's kind of quiet. I really haven't, I see people coming in, slowly trickling in and following me, but yeah, not much going on. I don't seem to get any threads from people. I guess nobody's posting. Anyway, and Jaime, if people want to get in touch with you, where would they find you?
I'm on Twitter as @DevOfTheHair.
All right, my name is Tim Mitra, TIMMITRA, on most of the things: the Twitter machine, the Mastodon machine, the Threads machine, the Blue Sky machine, the Instagram machine, all those machines. All the AI out there know me as that by that name nomenclature. So until next time, we'll see you in the future, or will we?
I hope
Bye.
so. Bye. Bye. On that ominous note.
But will it be really you, or will it be an altered universe you, or me, or whatever, right?
Who knows?
Which Kirk are you? Who knows? And are you real? I guess that's the question. Right.
You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. This is CNN.
What's that? Oh, I just thought the James Earl Jones thing was kind of cool. Oh, wrong show. Right.
If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter at Spotcast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpotcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spotcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
That should have been the quote of the day. Are you real? Is this real? Is it really happening?
Yeah. Yep.
So what else is new and exciting? Did you see the thing on Massey Hall about the Canadian Hall of Fame?
I did. The big mass induction.
Does that mean they're going to perform, or they're just going to?
I don't know.
Show up and.
I don't know. I saw the same thing and was like, well, if you're way into 1980s Canadian music, there's a bunch of household names in there, at least if you're up here. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. They didn't really do a good job of explaining.
No, yeah. Like, why would I buy the ticket?
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's the question I have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mind you, they did a similar thing like that for Joni Mitchell's birthday or something like that, and all these Canadian performers came out and played one of her songs, and then she was actually there.
Yeah.
Actually, she's on tour now as with that singer. What's her name?
Taylor Swift, Katy Perry.
No.
The Commodores.
Now you can make me look it up.
I don't know. When you say that singer, I'm just kind of throwing darts.
Yeah. As soon as I tell you the name, you'll know who it is.
Jackson Browne.
Joni Mitchell Tour 2023. Oh, man. Brandi Carlile.
Yeah, never would have got there. No. I don't think I could pick her out of a lineup. I've heard the name.
I don't know. She kind of strikes me as like an America's Got Talent kind of singer. Like, she just came out of, she's probably been around for years and years for all I know, but.
I know Belinda Carlisle. Is there a relation?
Well, maybe it says Brandy Carlisle.
No, it's what I'm saying. Maybe it's like a kid. I really don't know. Now I'm looking her up. Look what you did.
Wikipedia is kind of funny because it's like not to be confused with Belinda Carlisle as like
Oh, there you go. There it is.
But yeah, Brandy Carlisle has roots in Washington State, close-ish to Seattle, but not Seattle per se. I
9 Grammy Awards.
Oh, there you go. 2004. I was like, yeah, it feels like Brandy Carlisle's been around like forever, but not
quite Joni Mitchell forever.
It's kind of like, Brandy Carlisle's quietly been there the entire time. Like you've definitely heard her songs, but she hasn't been, like a Nirvana or Pearl Jam level of
well, I think it depends on your taste too. She's like folk, country, rock,
country folk,
which not high on my to-do list. I don't mind folk, but I tend to, short of Johnny Cash, I tend to skew a little bit more away from country music.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's offensive to Texans, but sorry, it's.
The funny thing is, she probably could swing way more into like country because country has become more like rock was historically than what country used to be.
Shania Twain, Canada's own.
Yeah, it's I don't know, genre is changing.
Yeah, well, I mean, hip hop is the biggest thing in the world now, right? So
yeah, 50 years, man.
Times change.
50 years. They just had their anniversary.
What did?
Hip hop.
Hip hop had a 50-year anniversary? So what, 63? So, no, 63? 73? No, 63? What is it? 73.
They said this is the 50th anniversary of, they were talking to Queen Latifah about that last week.
Oh.
Hang on one sec.
73.
I want to say Rapper's Delight. No, that's not it.
What, Sugar Hill Gang? That was mid-70s? Jeez.
Hip hop 50th. Yeah, 50th anniversary. Let's see. What does it say? 50 years of hip hop.
Sugar Hill Gang formed in 1979, so it's not them.
No.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a big fan of.
Well, it started
50s and 60s
in the
soul
Bronx,
music and 1960s and 70s funk music, which eventually like segued into being hip hop. So it's all about evolution, right? Blues led to soul, soul led to funk, funk led to hip hop, and just sort of spread from there, right? So.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to. Well, maybe I just go to Wikipedia and get the gist of it from Wikipedia. By the way, I donate to Wikipedia for those of you out there who are questioning if you should. I think you should.
And I subscribe to newspapers, former newspapers that are now online only, or online predominantly.
Yeah, it started in the Bronx in the 70s. Hip hop originated blah blah blah. What is the first song? I mean, it was the gaps in the breaks, right? In the songs, and they just play with them. Hip hop is often credited to Keith Cowboy, rapper with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five.
Oh, Grandmaster Flash. That sounds more right.
However, Love Bugs, Starzy, Keith Cowboy, and DJ in Hollywood used the term when music was still known as disco rap. Yeah. Yeah, I said hip hop, hippity hip hop. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. And don't stop.
Please do Rapper's Delight for us, Tim. Please.
No. I can't. That's one thing I can't do. I can sing all kinds of forms of music, but I cannot do rap. But Sugar Hill. It was Rapper's Delight was the first one, and I remember who's the guy with the Q? From the drummer with Q. He did a movie last year, and he was I think he's Jimmy Fallon's band leader. Questlove, yeah. He said people used to go in and ask for the hip hop record. That's how the name came, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Rapper's Delight's an iconic tune, but it's interesting that it's weird to reflect on something like that. The time passing. Again, I watched that biopic they did of NWA, and they were like, "Look at this ancient history." I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna just lie down in a grave now." Talking about something like happened in the late 80s and early 90s as ancient history. I'm feeling very sad about that.
Yeah, my friend Darby did that. He won an Emmy for that show about hip hop on. I think it's on. I want to say Netflix.
Yeah, there was a few competing ones. There was a good one on HBO I watched. It was like a 4-parter or 5-parter that was really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Canadian production because he was the guy that used to do the show Q again with the Q. Darby Wheeler. Darby Wheeler.
Yep.
If he's on IMDb, it is. Look at that. Hip Hop Evolution. That's the one. Yeah. Is that the one you were talking about?
I don't know if it was. Let me see.
Yeah, he was the producer of that one. It was on.
It was Hip Hop Evolution. That's right. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. That's the show he did. I think they had 2 seasons too, right?
Yeah, it was 2 seasons. That was an interesting one because it was like overarching subject, but then really profiling these different artists and why they were so influential. It was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He works with our sometimes co-host George Stroumboulopoulos.
There you go.
Yeah. That's how I know him anyway. Darby, that is. Coolio. Speaking of rap.
And next week is the crossover episode too, which is I think will be a fun one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got 4 more episodes, and it's just so we are in theory our latest chunk of episodes will be done on the 17th. That will be the last Strange New Worlds of the year. And they haven't announced. We were expecting Prodigy to come back. That's not happening, and they haven't announced a start date. Maybe they'll announce it this weekend at San Diego, a start date for Lower Decks, but they have not said when that's coming yet.
Right.
Typically, it does come sort of later August, so I would have said maybe the 24th or the 31st, but who knows? And then it's going to start to get dicier and dicier because they're going to start putting out stuff that's already produced, but the well will run dry eventually.
Right. Well, we'll have to see.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
well.
Keep the chat going on Slack next week, and we'll figure it out.
Yep.
Where is it you're going, Jaime?
I'll be going to Dallas for a work event. It's a thing where credit unions are doing a hackathon. And since we're a vendor that has stuff, we're participating. So I'll be there helping people learn how to use our stuff. And so probably a bunch of coffee and maybe some Red Bull or something, pizza, I assume, just with general hackathon stuff. And I'll also have a chance to hang out with one of my cousins who lives in Dallas. So that's kind of a nice little way to turn what will be a long work week into something that's a little bit more personal too.
Cool.
Nito Pichikino.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's happening here, but right now Facebook, Marvel's gone live on Facebook, and it looks like they're showing a new trailer. This must be for part of San Diego. They're showing a new trailer for the Marvels.
Oh, cool.
On the Facebook?
Yeah, it just popped up in Facebook, and it said basically said Marvel Studios is now live. So I clicked on it, and they're currently just showing. This is not the same trailer. This is a very different material. I don't recognize most of this.
Mm-hmm.
This is it's long too. Oh, and we get our first look at the bad guy too.
Not the bad guy.
The bad guy. Well, it's a bad female in appearance, and more Nick Fury.
More Nick Fury.
I guess that means he doesn't die next week.
What?
Oh, and look at all the Flurkins.
Yep.
That's a lot of.
You tell Xavier I found a case today that it's like $10 or $11 on Amazon that you put over top of your existing Apple Watch. It makes it look like an Ultra.
That's funny.
Yeah, including the Ultra
like
style watch bands, right?
It's the Corvette fiberglass body kit on top of your VW Bug kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I saw one of those for sale on what's that thing called on the Facebook Marketplace last week? An old beat up that's cool. Beat up fiberglass body, kind of, it looked pretty rough.
It's very strange. They won't let you. I'm just sort of looking at this thing, thinking like, well, I can share this. How do I share this? Like, there's nowhere to share this thing. It's so stupid.
With the link?
Yeah, I was just thinking
that's
like,
why YouTube and Twitter, ironically, are like better options than the Facebook Watch stuff. It's so maddening how bad Facebook is at sharing from other places into it. for that or out of it. But if you're in it, it's easy to share.
Yeah.
But the crossing boundaries is the tough part with it for some weird reason.
Yeah, like, well, you can't copy that link. To hell with you. Like, oh, all right, well, sure.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Instead, what you all should fill your life with is Stars on Mars. I haven't known whether this would qualify for the show. That's why it's here, an after show. Have you all heard of this American reality competition series?
Stars on Mars?
Stars on Mars. So the basic idea is you have celebrities put together in a competition. The theme is that they're on a base on Mars, so they live inside of a Mars habitat, and they can only go outside with spacesuits and red sand and rocks and stuff. And it stars William Shatner as the mission control, ground control, who is hypothetically calling them and giving them missions week after week. And at the very end of whatever challenge, based on the rules, somebody has to be eliminated. So it's kind of fun in a trashy TV way, where I'm like, oh, like, surprising amount of budget for this reality TV show, where like they've got little robot dogs and pyrotechnics and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's adjacent to Spockcast material, I would say.
Yeah.
It involves at least one or more Canadians. It involves one or more Star Trek actors. It's not traditional, for sure.
Oh, you mean William Shatner, the guy who used to play Kirk?
He's been to space, sort of?
It's been to space-ish?
And the fun thing is that if you watch week after week, as I have, you can tell that they do the shtick of like, ground control, mission controls, video chat with you is delayed by like 20 minutes or something. Like it would really be between Earth and Mars. So they can't do live back and forth. I feel like that conceit works really well because I'm pretty sure William Shatner just did one day of work to shoot all of the different sequences that they needed, pass or fail for each week. Because he never calls out a particular person. He just says like, hey, somebody's got to be eliminated. Okay, bye. Oh, hooray, you all succeeded the mission. The habitat ring is secure, So the thing that's almost got me as a weird tension is like, what happens at the end? Will he finally come back for realsy to see who won? Or do they have something sort of generic planned out for that? Like, how many days of Shatner did they get? I know it's at least one, but I don't think it's much more than that.
That sounds odd.
It fits the... It's the junk food of TV kind of thing, right?
Well, that's what reality TV is across the board, right?
Definitely. It is all calories. There's no nutrition at all in this. So this is one of those shows that I watch when I'm like stressed out from the day. I just need to relax. Just let my brain go like, ooh, yeah, sure. Let's watch let's watch Ariel Winter and Marshawn Lynch get angry at each other because they didn't agree on who the base commander was going to be, right?
If you'd asked me who I thought was on it, I would 100% would have said Marshawn Lynch. It would have been my first pick.
It's quite the set, kind of interestingly. I looked at the Wikipedia. I mean, there's spoilers aplenty on the Wikipedia entry. I was like, who's this character? I was like, oh, that's right, McLovin.
Oh, God.
Which was one of the shticks of like,
Platts, yeah.
Nobody knows what that dude's real name is. He's McLovin.
Chris Mintz-Platts, man. Yeah, he's
what? When? Where?
He's a star of that one.
Wait, that dude is American? I thought for sure that was a Canadian. Like, if you had asked me.
That's just because he's so secretly. Seth is he's in the cloud with Seth, so he must be one of us.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Shall we call it?
We should call it.
Okay.
All right. Well, safe travels, Jaime.
Talk at you later.
We'll talk sometime next week, and we'll figure it all out.
Thank you. Safe travels, Tim.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, I think we're all hitting the road next week, although my trip's admittedly not that far.
On the road again. We're all getting in a plane and flying somewhere.
Woohoo! My plane will be in the air for less than an hour.
All right.
Mine
will be in the air for 2.
There you go.
Okay, bye.
All right. See you guys.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.